According to my watch, it is 10 o'clock. So, good morning. I want to thank y'all for coming. And the purpose of this press conference is to hopefully clarify any misinformation or misunderstanding regarding the recent controversy over grading guidelines. Yes, we made mistakes. On behalf of our school system, I'm here to say that we apologize for the mistakes that were made and our role in the creation of this controversy. The school system does not need this, and this community does not need this, and the educational community does not need this. One of the basic tenets of the Lowndes County school system's educational philosophy is that all students can learn. However, they don't all learn in the same way, and they don't all learn at the same rate. I would like to think that most of you probably agree with that principle. With this belief in mind, we are a learning-focused school system, and our main focus is and should be on students. We have many truly outstanding teachers in our school system, and these teachers are dedicated to the pursuit of excellence every day in their classrooms. Excellent teachers are the foundation for quality instruction, and they use differentiated instructional strategies in order to appeal to the different learning styles of students in the classroom. All educators should be committed to the continuous improvement of work, and especially work that they provide to their students, and this includes the mastery of learning in the classroom. Failure is unacceptable. If a student fails, we must determine why that student failed. We must seek a solution to success for that student. We must reteach the material they did not master, and then we must reassess the student. But we have only asked our staff to reassess one time. I don't know how it got misconstrued that we would reassess and reassess and reassess until the student mastered. That is not the case. Now, we don't hold our, we don't try to dictate to our teachers and say that you can't reassess more than once. That's left to their discretion or to the discretion of the school administration. And I would dare say that most of our teachers reassess multiple times. And they do everything within their power to make sure that a child can pass. Does this mean that all students will learn? We hope so. But in all likelihood, all students won't learn. Some will probably fall through the cracks. Years ago, and you may remember this, but I remember a story that was told by futurist Joel Barker. I love this story. Joel Barker talks about an older man that would walk down the beach every day, and he would pick up starfish, and he would toss them back into the ocean. Well, this young boy was sitting on the beach, and he saw this, and he went up to the man, and he said, "Sir, what are you doing?" And the man said, "I'm saving starfish." And the young boy said, "Well, you certainly can't make a difference and save all these starfish on the beach." The older man picked up a starfish and tossed it back into the ocean and said, "I saved that one. I made a difference in that one." That's what we're trying to do every day in the classroom. We can make a difference in the number of students who are successful in the classroom. And the way we make a difference is not accepting failure. If a student doesn't master the subject matter of the content, then we need to evaluate. We need to reteach, and we need to reassess. And hopefully that student will master the subject matter. I dare say that there's not anybody in here who hasn't been given a second chance, a third chance, maybe more. I wouldn't be standing here today if it were not for this school system and this school board giving me a second chance. Because when this job was open, I withdrew my application because of the death of our chairman of our school system in Hawkinsville. I withdrew my name from consideration. And 3 months later, I was approached by the consultant who asked me to consider reapplying. The situation was different. The community had recovered from the loss of our board chairman. I did reapply, and the board chose me as their superintendent. Hey, I got a second chance. And that's just one example. There are many, many opportunities for second chances in life. And I'm sure if we had the time, each of you could share an example of your second chances that you received. I want to emphasize that the information that was distributed in the teacher guide to grading and the parent guide to grading was simply intended to be guidelines. It was not intended to alter our current grading practice. This situation originated with a simple question that one of our principals asked for clarification regarding the grading practice of assigning a report card grade no lower than a 60. For the past year and a half, it has been our practice to use 60 as the lowest grade recorded at regular grading intervals in grades 3 through 8. This practice sustains hope for a student to master their learning objectives rather than creating a situation where it's numerically impossible for that student to pass. There were inconsistencies among schools and even within schools regarding the correct interpretation and application of this practice. A meeting was held with our principals to determine the degree of inconsistency and to work towards some common agreement that was as to the correct interpretation and application of this practice. Over a month, the guidelines went through a series of revisions where principals had the opportunity to discuss these guidelines with their staffs. Principals worked collaboratively with other principals and with central office personnel to develop these guidelines. These guidelines were designed to clarify and communicate the correct interpretation and appropriate application of this practice. Obviously, there was a critical mistake. The majority of this document contains beliefs, I would say 95% of this document contains beliefs that I subscribe to, that the board subscribe to, and that all great teachers subscribe to and practice every day in their classroom. However, in gathering this information, 2 new recommendations surfaced and became embedded within these guidelines. The 2 recommendations in question were, first of all, counting the highest grade earned and not an average of the grades, and secondly, redoing assessments for those students who had passed the initial assessment. These 2 variations from our established practice may create a question of fairness to students who did what was expected of them on the initial assessment. They will not be a part of our grading practice and will not be included in our revised grading guidelines to be reissued at a future date. As a system, we have not adopted a position as to the grade given on the reassessment. We have no requirement on the reassessment of students who pass the assignment to start with. Our teachers reteach and reassess at least one time in areas where the student fails to master. Additional opportunities, I said earlier, additional opportunities for reteaching and reassessment are left to the discretion of the teacher and or the administration. We do discourage giving zeros or other extremely low grades. Instead, we expect incomplete, missing, or failing assignments to be redone and opportunities to redo these. Now, when you give a 0 or any other low grade, there comes a point in time where it's numerically impossible for that child to pass. When that happens, you know as well as I do, and I know our principals know, it likely leads to classroom disruptions. So what we're trying to do is to give students an opportunity to be successful. We give them an incomplete and we expect them to make up the work. But if a student blatantly refuses to complete an assignment or demonstrate mastery on the assessment, the student will receive the score that they earn. We need to be mindful that we are working with students, and this practice is applied to students between the ages of 7 and 13. These students are in training to hopefully become responsible adults someday. Yes, They do need to be taught responsibility and accountability, but through a progressive process. As students age and mature, we expose them to varying degrees of responsibility and accountability. The ultimate expectation is that they will graduate from high school and that they'll eventually reach adulthood and become responsible citizens with all of the responsibility and accountability that life demands. In closing, I repeat, the intent of the guidelines were to clarify and increase consistency in the application of the grading practice, not to add changes to our current grading practice, especially in the midst of the school year. Any new additions to our existing practices will be deleted. Over the next 18 months, our staff and our stakeholders will continue to reevaluate our assessment and grading practices. I've stated on many occasions that we must seek stakeholder satisfaction and support in all that we do, and we measure this in our surveys. I've also said that our success as a school system is dependent upon a strong partnership between the school, the home, and the community. Any change in policy will come as the result of research, the dissemination of information to our stakeholders, for feedback, and a comprehensive evaluation prior to a recommendation to our board. As with all policies, our board makes the ultimate decision. Mr. Fred Davis, our chairman, is out of town with the Georgia School Board Association in Washington, D.C. So at this time, I want to ask our vice chairman, Mr. Fred Wetherington, to come forward and make any closing comments prior to me opening up for questions